All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our SACOG board meeting. Today is Thursday, January 20th, 2022. Great to have you with us all. And we are going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to look around and ask Director Thomas if she would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would join us.
I'd be happy to do that. All right. Be ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Director Thomas. And let's go ahead and Lynette, if you could do roll call, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Just a quick housekeeping a note for members of the public who are observing the meeting. If you're interested in providing public comment, the instructions for doing that is listed on the agenda at the top, and we welcome any and all public comment. I'll go ahead and take roll. Director Baines.
Present.
Bernasconi.
Here.
Bradford. Absent. Branscombe.
Here.
Bulahan.
Here.
Burris.
Here.
Clark Kretz.
Here.
Desmond. Absent. Frericks.
I'm here.
Frost.
Here.
Gallardo.
Here.
Gog.
Yes.
Guerrero. Absent. Harris.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Joyner.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Aquino for Kozlowski.
Here.
Lozano.
Here.
Middleton.
Here.
New.
Here.
Sander. Absent. Saragosa.
Here.
Saylor.
Here.
Chenier. Absent. Spokley. Absent. Stallard.
Present.
Soon.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
West.
Here.
Vice Chair Jennings.
Here.
Chair Gore.
Here.
And for the record, I'll show that Director Desmond has just joined the meeting along with Director Spokley.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lynette. Appreciate that. And we'll just move right along. So this is our opportunity for public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on an item that's not on our agenda. Lynette, do we have any emails or any other communication with our board for public comment this morning?
No public comment.
All right, thank you. So this morning, we're going to do a little bit differently. We need to take up our first action item of business in order to continue to meet remotely. So this is action item number 1, our remote board meeting. And Lynette, if you want to just share briefly.
Great, thank you. Good morning. This is a familiar item to all of you. As required by AB 361, this item is to allow this board meeting to be held remotely and to proceed as such. The staff recommendation is that the board approves the resolution that was in the staff packet. And again, it would allow for this meeting to be held remotely. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Move approval.
Thank you. Good morning.
Madam Chair, I would move approval with the understanding that we add this to the consent calendar in future months. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I think I heard, well, an approval from Director Stallard. I want to make sure I have opportunity for public comment. Any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
All right, and then how about Director Gallardo, since I heard you jump in as well. So I have a motion and a second. And actually, if are we able to do this on the consent calendar in the future?
We are, actually, we do have this item on consent, Director Stallard. We noted your comment previously, and that is our plan. However, we have presentations this morning, the induction of our chair and vice chair, and AB 361, as we understand it, requires that the first item of business be the adoption of this resolution, and so we had to reorder the agenda. But we fully intend going forward to have this on consent. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You bet.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So do we need to do a roll call, Lynette, or can we?
We do. Yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
let's go ahead and take the roll call, please.
Director Baines,
Aye.
Bernasconi,
Aye.
Bradford, absent Branscombe. Director Branscombe, could you indicate your vote, please?
Hoping that remote does not go on forever, my vote is aye.
Thank you. Bullahan,
Aye.
Burris,
Aye.
Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Desmond,
Aye.
Frericks,
Aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Joyner, Kennedy,
Aye.
Aquino for Kozlowski,
Aye.
Lozano,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
New,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Saragosa,
Aye.
Sailor,
Aye.
Chenier, absent Spokely,
Yes.
Stallard, Director Stallard, could you indicate your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Soon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
West,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings,
Yes.
and Chair Gore.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Well, this is a wonderful opportunity. Next item on our agenda is to do the induction of our 2022 board chair and vice chair. So now I'm going to ask Kirk Trost, if you would please administer the oath of office to Director Jennings.
I would be happy to. Director Jennings, would you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Rick Jennings, Jr.,
I, Rick Jennings II,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And during such times as I am chair for SACOG and the Capital Valley SAFE,
And during such time that I am chair for SACOG and the Capital Valley SAFE,
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the chair according to the best of my abilities.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the chair to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And congratulations, Mr. Jennings. And next we will have the oath of office to our vice chair, Patrick Kennedy.
Director Kennedy, will you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Patrick Kennedy,
I, Patrick Kennedy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter,
the duties about which I am about to enter,
and during such times as I am Vice Chair for SACOG and the Capital Valley SAFE,
and during such time that I am Vice Chair of SACOG and the Capital Valley SAFE,
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice Chair according to the best of my abilities.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of Vice Chair to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Director Kennedy. Thank you so much. So now it is my opportunity and absolute pleasure to pass the gavel along to our newly appointed chair of the Board of SACOG. So here is the gavel, Mr. Jennings, Coach Jennings. So I am happy to pass it off to you.
Thank you so much. And I have now received it, and I thank you and look forward to this opportunity to be the chair of SACOG. But first, before I talk about anything like that, I think it's now time that we have the opportunity to recognize our outgoing chair, Bonnie Gore. We want to recognize her for her leadership over the year, and I'd like each of you who feels comfortable in adding to what I'm about to say. And so I'm gonna ask you to get ready if it's something that you'd like to say to her, as she has served us for the last year. And so I want to just start, if I will. It's my great pleasure to thank Bonnie Gore for her year of service as a SACOG board chair. The time and commitment it takes to balance the demands of your local community and being able to lead this region is quite a load. And I know you know that, but you did it with excellence. You joined this board in January of 2019, representing Placer County, and your 2021 chair leadership brought incredible focus to welcoming 12 new members on the SACOG board. I think that's a record. And it's true, and I don't just mean welcoming them, I mean truly welcoming them, including all of them in the pre-board meetings, getting to know you sessions, and making sure that their first year on the board was a great one. To the 12 members who are out there, and Bonnie did such an incredible job, just raise your hand in the air and just wave it like you just don't care, right? Give her a little love, if you will, right? In addition, ensuring through steady education and discussion that we share a common foundation of understanding of policy issues critical to our work. Examples include your leadership around housing in a year of our housing element updates, your challenge, the chair's challenge to us at the end of last year on local action around housing, continuing the race, equity, and inclusion effort that added 10 new community members to our working group, and they have added incredible value. Helping to champion our Green Means Grow program at the state level and win critical funding to help our regional efforts to support infill housing, and providing strong leadership in the mega region working group meetings. Your commitments to the democratic process and engaging elected officials and stakeholders across our individual governing bodies was demonstrated throughout the year. Just on a personal note, I love your smile. Everybody who comes in contact with you, you invite them in with that incredible smile and your engaging spirit. For me, you are a great leader. You are an incredible teacher for everyone that you touch. You are a mentor to many of us, and I call you a mentor. You are a friend to all of us to the end. and you're a teammate that is now on our winning team. And we are so glad to have you. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending great appreciation to our 2021 chair, Bonnie Gore.
Hey.
Thank you very much, Rick. I really
Bravo.
appreciate it.
Bonnie, before I hand it over to you, I want to give it to our executive director, James Corliss, for another presentation.
Chair Jennings, do you want to get other board members to say things first, or you want me to go?
You go first, and then we'll bring everybody else in.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Happy to do that. Whatever you say, Coach. I'm gonna get used to it. All right. Director Gore, I just personally can't tell you enough. I hope I've communicated to you, just echoing Chair Jennings, how important your leadership was, but really how important it was in this last 12 months, a very challenging 12 months, 12 months of change. And again, I, like many others, wish we could do this in person. I wish I could hand you these things in person, but we've got a couple of things we wanted to say and present to you in addition to your plaque you just saw from SACOG there. We had asked your state legislators to be here. They all wish they could. They're in floor sessions right now, which is the only reason they're not here to thank you. That's Assembly Member Kiley and Senators Nielsen and Dolly. But I do want to know that we have a joint resolution, with a legislative resolution in recognition of your service and your leadership. I don't know if somebody, there we go. And this, believe me, this was an easy one for them to write. And I won't read the whole thing, but I want to read a little bit. Whereas as chair of SACOG, the Honorable Bonnie Gore has worked diligently to advance the goals and principles of the organization, and her valuable leadership and exemplary record of career and civic leadership have earned her great respect and sincere admiration of her fellow board members. Now be it therefore resolved by Senators Jim Nielsen and Brian Dolly and Assembly Member Kevin Kiley, they take great pleasure in commending the Honorable Bonnie Gore for her outstanding record of community service, congratulate her for her leadership she provided to the board of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments during her term as chair, and convey to her best wishes for a future filled with continued success. And finally, last but not least, and this could be, if we could show the next item here, we might well start the year off here generating some regional controversy. I know this could be a year filled with controversy and challenge. The regional gift box, Bonnie, this is treats and food from around the region. But in all seriousness, because I know you made that absolute extra effort to include people and to understand each of our board members and their jurisdictions. This wasn't just a job for you. You took this so seriously. And so here you go. It's and again, this is the controversy part, because what did we leave out? We left out a lot of things that could have even been grown by some of our board members. Comb honey from Woodland, candles from El Dorado County, walnut oil from Woodland gets 2, botanical cocoa powder from West Sacramento. Who knew? Go out and buy it now before it runs off the shelves. Peanut butter and chocolate treats from Rancho Cordova, almonds from Woodland. Woodland is really showing up strong here. And outside our region, because of your mega region, were salami from Chico and beef jerky from Willits. So this truly is a Northern California gift box. But again, to close it out, it's a huge thank you from all of us and the staff here who so appreciate your leadership and your touch and your enthusiasm throughout this last year. So thank you.
Thank you, James. And I look forward to enjoying the treats from the region. I really appreciate that.
So we have about, I know we have at least 5 hands that are raised right now. And you're gonna have to have patience with me, because I've got to learn how to be able to see everybody on this screen, as opposed to only the 6 that I can see right now. So I see Jill Gallego, I see Sue Frost, and I see Michael Saragosa, but that's it. So while you guys start talking, I'm gonna see if I can see the rest of you. Jill, you wanna start?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Just real quickly, I know Bonnie knows, but I couldn't be more appreciative of everything she does for SACOG and for our county. Bonnie is a leader in our county, and she's done that same thing with us as far as bringing us all together and making those connections. And she is professional, and she is positive, and she is definitely a leader. And she knows that we can get her some Placer County mandarins very, very easily to add to that basket, and we'll drop some by. Thank you, Bonnie, for everything.
Sue Frost.
Hi, Bonnie. I just want to thank you for your leadership in 2021. I know it was a challenging year, and you handled it with grace and dignity and compassion for all sides of every point of view. And we all hold you in very high regard and appreciate your leadership in the region. Thank you.
Hey, I think I have Michael Saragosa.
All right, well, Bonnie, again, thank you for your leadership and for your friendship. I've had the chance to work with you on the Policy and Innovation Committee beforehand, and now you as chair, and then even a little bit in my day job as well. And throughout all that, you've shown just grace and leadership throughout all of it. There is a bottle of olive oil from Placerville that'll be coming your way as well. And next time you come through, it's lunch on me at Heyday as well. So thank you, Bonnie.
I'll make sure to be her driver for that one. Okay. And if I don't get you in the order that you put your hand up, just know that you're going to be called on, and everybody who's got their hand up, I'm going to call on you. So I'm gonna go with Lucas next.
Thank you, Chair Jennings. It's really congratulations to you as well, and to Vice Chair Kennedy. So just wanted to say a couple of quick things. Bonnie, I'm so grateful for your job as chair of SACOG in this past year. I think you've done such a tremendous job. I feel honored to be able to have served in leadership at SACOG together with you. And we all know that this has been just such an extremely challenging time over the course of the past 2 years to serve in local government. So my hat is off to you in so many ways. And then on a personal note, I feel extremely fortunate to have spent a lot of time safely in person, on Zoom too, but in person, getting to know each other over the past couple of years, as Bonnie and I have been in the same ALF cohort. And so the relationship that we've been able to forge during that work together is also extremely meaningful to me. So thank you so much for your continued leadership. Just such a fantastic job. And I'm so honored to be able to be your friend and to serve with you.
Wendy Thomas.
I agree with everything that's been said. And on a personal note, Bonnie, I'd like just to express how meaningful it was as a new SACOG board member this year, your outreach to all of us. I think a good example is during El Dorado County's greatest challenge, which was the Caldor fire. Because of the connection and the relationship you had built with me, I felt comfortable to reach out to you, and you were able to, help bring assistance to El Dorado County. And that was just so meaningful. The conversations we've had, thinking about issues, it's just another example of how meaningful the relationships that we build at SACOG are to us bringing the region together and helping each other out in issues and times of need. So thank you for your leadership and helping mentor new board members. You've done an amazing job.
Thank you. Tom Solid.
Thank you. Again, I agree with everyone. You're very easy to love, Bonnie. You're not only are you a great leader, but you're just a wonderful human being. And those of us who serve in government know that the greatest joy of it all is working with others. And when people like you come along, we just want to grab you and say, thank you for being part of this and all you've done for all of us. Thank you.
Jan Clark Kretz.
Thank you so much. Bonnie, I just have to echo every single person's comment this morning. I've worked with you over the years, and it has been really wonderful. I have to say, Chair Jennings is right about your engaging spirit. You definitely have one, and I've appreciated our relationship together, and it certainly is very helpful to have somebody like you that welcomes everybody. It was great to have you welcoming us as a new member, but the type of leadership that you displayed here in SACOG has been evident prior to that, and looking forward to seeing future great things for you. And thank you so much again, Bonnie. I think you're wonderful.
Director Gog.
Yes, Bonnie, thank you for your leadership. It was really great that you reached out to me and made me very comfortable before the start of the season, and the things that we talked about. It's just, you're such a smooth leader. You're very professional, and I was so happy to work with you. Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Darren Soon.
Thank you, Chair Jennings. Bonnie, it's my turn to share the similar sentiments from everyone here. I just want to emphasize the point that folks have made about you messaging inclusiveness to this group. I'll never forget one of our last board assignments where you had all of us share what everyone else is doing in their respective cities. I don't remember a time when anyone's ever done that, and it should have been done a long time ago. So I really appreciate you bringing that element to it. And just, I've known you since you're on Roseville City Council, but it's the first time we've gotten to serve together on this regional board. So I'm very, very happy that you're here, and thank you so much for your leadership this past year.
Director Bulahan.
Yeah, I concur with everybody who's made comment, and this is my first year on the board, and Bonnie made me feel very, very comfortable. She reached out, and I thank her for that.
Director Baines.
Bonnie, thank you so much. Like our fellow board members have all mentioned, you made everybody feel really welcome as a newly elected supervisor, and just coming onto the board. I really want to thank you for your guidance, your leadership, your time and commitment to SACOG. And I just want to remind you that there's plenty of canned peaches and dried fruit up here in Sutter County that's coming your way, and I hope to see you again next time you pass through. And I just want to thank you for arranging or hosting that social. I mean, I know this last couple of years has been tough on everybody, and it's not easy being on Zoom, but that social that I know everybody was able to attend, but I just want to thank you for allowing us to get together. Thank you.
Director Saylor.
Thank you, Bonnie. I just one word, ditto to all that's been said. And I really appreciate the way that you made room for all of our members to shine, and these community profiles that you hosted. Others have said it, but I think that was a wonderful way to respond to a challenging time and to really let us learn so much about the region. We've known each other since you were a government relations person around the region, and I've always appreciated your contributions in that arena, and it's really been fun to watch you lead us. This is a team of leaders, and you've done a wonderful job of keeping us together in a challenging time. Thank you.
Director Harris, and then Director Bernasconi.
Yeah, Bonnie, real quick. I can't say anything that hasn't already been said, but just from me to you, a personal appreciation for your what's already been recognized, your ability to loop everybody in. Everybody clearly to you has value. Everybody may come to you on a personal level, professional level, and will always get the respect and consideration that they deserve. And you create that environment, you enable that environment, and bring that out in people. And that's always been remarkable since the day you and I met, before you even chair. And very much appreciated. And in many ways, you serve as a role model in that regard for, I think, all leaders. And much appreciated, Bonnie. Good job.
Director Bernasconi.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. I've had the chance to know Bonnie for many years. I don't even know how many years it's been, but it's definitely before our city council and county service. So one of the things that when I think of Bonnie is the service before self, and you have demonstrated that in the city, in the county, and with SACOG, and that doesn't go unrecognized. I really appreciate that aspect about you. Now that I've waited so long, I forget what I was going to say. I just appreciate you, Bonnie, and always willing to step up, and thank you for your friendship as well.
Director Joyner.
Thank you, Rick. Bonnie, I'm going to keep my comments. Yeah, I'm going to keep my comments very brief. I'm in the midst of this whole COVID thing. So not lack of many things to say to you, but job well done. And when I'm feeling better, we're going to get you Placer County wines. We're going to get you Lincoln ales. We're going to get you Vitamin Farms pistachios. We're going to load you up with Placer County goods. Thank you for all you've done.
So I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. If I did, then please, this would be your opportunity, because I want to turn it over to Bonnie. I know she sat in that seat and held this in as long as she could. And I wanted to make sure she felt all the love that each one of us feels for her. I wanted to make sure she heard all the comments that we mean with all our heart and soul. I wanted her to know the impact that she has had on each and every one of us and this region. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Director Bonnie Gore.
Thank you, Chair Jennings, and thank you all really for your comments. I really appreciate it. And I just have to say it has really been an honor to serve as your chair this past year. It's been a great opportunity. And it has been certainly interesting, definitely challenging, but a lot of fun and very rewarding. And I think really rewarding because you're such a great group of people, a great group of regional leaders. And we've really been able to accomplish a lot this past year. So I just want to say thank you. Although we did not meet in person, we tried really hard. I cannot wait to sit next to Sean again in the big board room. I look forward to that. But I want to say thank you to how hard you all worked to dig into the work of SACOG this year, how hard you all worked to engage with one another, to get to know one another, especially those of you who took extra time to do the presentations and share about your jurisdictions and yourselves. I think it really helped us foster that community. I do want to say thank you to the folks who served as chair this past year, Directors Zaragoza, Soon, Gallardo, and Jennings. Thank you for stepping up and taking on additional responsibilities. And I really want to say thank you to the SACOG staff and definitely Lynette and James. You kept me on track and you all made me look good. So I appreciate that. And then just one last thing, I want to say how fortunate we are to be part of a region that chooses to work collaboratively. I just have so much respect for all of you, the hard work that you do in your own jurisdictions to serve our community. And so thank you for investing your time, not only in your own community, but in this greater region. I really do believe that we are stronger together and that we are definitely more effective together. And we've seen that over the last couple of years. So it has certainly been an honor to serve as your chair, and I am more than happy to pass it over to Coach Jennings. I know that Rick will do an excellent job as our chair this next year. So I am going to pass it back to our chair. Thank you all.
Thank you. Big round of applause for Chair Bonnie Gore. Always in our hearts, Chair Gore, always. And we are stronger together. We are. And we thank you for your leadership in 2021 and your continued leadership that you'll continue to provide. So moving on to our SACOG business for the day, I'd like to announce the new committee assignments that were sent via email. And I hope you all got them and had a chance to look at them. They were sent last evening. They're also available on the SACOG website with the agenda packet. So I want to thank all those who have agreed to serve on the committees and serve on the committees, and special thanks for those who accepted leadership roles. In particular, I want to call out our new committee chairs, Director Zaragoza, Director Saylor, Director Kozlowski, and Director Director Furich for agreeing to help co-chair the Race, Equity, and Inclusion group with me. So if you give them a quick round of applause, if you will. And I also want to recognize our new vice chairs. The vice chairs, we did something a little, just slightly different. We put a lot of our new members in the vice chair positions because we're trying to create leadership for the day and for tomorrow. And everybody that I talked to and everybody that I asked said yes. And I'm delighted that they wanted to step up in a leadership position. I didn't have to twist anybody's hand. I didn't have to wrangle. I didn't have to do any of that. I really appreciated everybody who stepped up and said yes. And so I'm looking forward to an incredible 2022. And with that, I see Darren, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair Jennings. I wanted to talk about this with you offline, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity that you've afforded me to be a co-chair on the REI committee. However, I started putting the dates into my calendar and realized they are in direct conflict with my professional work board meetings. So I won't be able to serve in that capacity for, not being able to. It's uncertain whether I'd be able to make the entire meeting or the meeting at all on those days. So I just wanted to give you my heartfelt regrets and thank you for your consideration.
Well, I thank you, Director Soon. And here's what I know. You may not be able to stand in that role as a co-chair that we had talked about. I know that your schedule at work conflicts with that. I understand that. But here's what I know. I know that whenever I call on you, you're going to be there to answer that call and you're going to be supportive. And whether I call you in the midnight hour or early in the morning, I know you'll be there to answer my call and you'll be able to work with us in order to make the Race, Equity, and Inclusion Committee stronger every single year. So I know that. So I appreciate you even trying to make it work. And I understand the conflict that we all have as busy leaders. But I know whenever I call on you, I know you'll be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. Let me see where I am right now. So I think we're going to move to the SACOG consent calendar. These items are intended to be approved in one motion. However, anyone can remove an item for separate discussion. Does any director wish to remove an item right now to have separate discussion? And I don't see any on my screen. So without seeing anyone, Lynette, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak or remove an item for public comment?
There's no public comment on these items.
With that, I would take a motion and a second to approve the calendar.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Thomas, second.
Okay, Baines moved it. Thomas has seconded it. Would you please take the roll?
Thank you. Director Baines?
Aye.
Bernasconi?
Aye.
Bradford absent. Branscombe?
Aye.
Houlihan?
Aye.
Burris?
Aye.
Clark Kretz?
Aye.
Desmond?
Aye.
Frericks?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Gallardo?
Aye.
Thank you. Gog?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Aye.
Harris?
Yes.
Joyner?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Aquino for Kozlowski?
Aye.
Lozano?
Aye.
Middleton?
Aye.
New? Director New, could you indicate your vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sander?
Aye.
Saragosa?
Aye.
Saylor?
Aye.
Chenier absent. Spokley?
Yes.
Stallard?
Aye.
Soon?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
West? Director West, could you indicate your vote, please? I'll come back to you. Director Gore?
Aye.
And now Chair Jennings?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Wester, if you're there, could you indicate your vote? Okay, I'll mark him absent. Motion carries.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. We will now move to item number 6, which is an action item. This is a public hearing on unmet transit needs in Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, Yuba counties, and the cities there within. My understanding is Barbara Van Han Bechtold will present the item, and then we will open up the public hearing.
Good morning.
Barbara, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
And I hope I didn't butcher your name.
My last name, it's easy to say, it's just really long. I'm Barbara Von Bechtold. I'm on your transportation team at SACOG. And as Director Jennings said, or Chair Jennings, excuse me, I'm here for the public hearing for unmet transit needs in the 4 counties. The Transportation Development Act requires that SACOG, as the 4-county regional transportation planning agency, makes annual unmet transit needs findings for the Sacramento Regional Transit District and for all jurisdictions in the 4 counties to be eligible to use TDA funds. SACOG has to hold this final public hearing before our board prior to the unmet transit needs findings being finalized. So with that, I'd like to ask that the board hold a public hearing on unmet transit needs at today's board meeting on January 20th, 2022. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have before the hearing.
Well, first I'll open up the public hearing. And I'll ask if there are any of our directors or anyone from the public who wishes to comment on the item.
Chair Jennings, I did receive 2 public comments through email that I'd be happy to read into the record.
Please.
Thank you. The first comment, excuse me, sorry, just 1 second as I pull that up. The first comment was received this morning via email, and it is from Angela Hearing, and she says, as SACOG board, I hope my comments are valuable and taken into consideration when making decisions on unmet needs. This process of decision-making is important to the vulnerable populations of transit riders that are heavily dependent on public transportation. My son and I have advocated numerous ways for public transportation, specifically the microtransit Smart Ride west of I-5 in North Natomas since 2018. Currently, the Smart Ride has been implemented within certain boundaries of North Natomas and part of North Sacramento, which includes corner-to-corner drop-off and pickup west of I-5. The availability of the Smart Ride buses vary with a time frame of 10 to 45-minute pickup. The Smart Ride bus also operates Monday through Friday. On the weekends, there are no options of public transportation for residents west of I-5. The nearest SAC RT bus stop for line number 11 is a 45-minute walk. Duckhorn and Arena, where the west side of I-5 begins, and the nearest SAC RT bus stop for line number 13 is an hour walk. The only option currently available is rideshare options via Lyft and Uber. The residents of west of I-5 are appreciative of the Smart Ride presence, but its effectiveness, productivity, and presence need improvement with the financial funds from SACOG. I'm advocating for the 3 apartment complexes that have over 225 units of 2 and 3 bedrooms, each on Duckhorn Drive alone, along with the numerous residents and dependent public transit individuals. Not having adequate access to any type of public transportation, especially on Saturdays and Sundays, is a disservice to me and the community that I advocate for. I would like to know how this is not a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The city of Sacramento is entering its 2nd phase of its attempt to prioritize transportation projects and priorities in Sacramento. The residents that participated highlighted North Natomas' lack of transportation. She included a link to the 35-page report, and this public comment will be added to our website at the end of this meeting. She goes on to emphasize the need for SACOG to review the data from SAC RT. And this is well over the 250 word limit, but I'll just summarize and say that she's requesting Smart Ride service to operate Monday through Sunday for North Natomas and North Sac, and the weekend times of 8 to 5. That concludes the first public comment. And our second comment is from Barbara Stanton. She says, expand Natomas North Sacramento Sac RT Smart on-demand bus service boundaries. North Sacramento boundaries expand the North Sac area south from Marconi Arcade Light Rail into Hagenwood, South Hagenwood, Dixie Ann, Old North Sacramento, Woodlake, and west to Highway 160. This area encompasses 4 grocery stores, 2 medical clinics, various restaurants, a bakery, social services, the CETA building, and the North Sacramento Hagenwood Library, which is expanding to a new site at 1124 Del Paso Boulevard near Highway 160, which will become a community hub. Expanding the on-demand bus boundaries will supplement the existing 30 to 60 bus and non-existent bus service in those areas for residents. Thank you. And that concludes the public comment that we received.
Thank you very much. Once again, are there any board members that have a comment or a question on this item? Seeing none at this time, I will announce that the public hearing is now closed and there is no other action needed at this time on this item. Okay. Let's move to item number 7, which is the repurposing the regional early action plan funds to support the housing element compliance and post-compliance activities. We have Greg Chu, who's going to make a presentation, I believe. Greg, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair Jennings, and congratulations on your new position. Yes, I'm Greg Chu. I'm on the planning staff at SACOG, and this item is to repurpose some existing grant funds. So a couple of years ago, SACOG received almost $6.8 million from the state Housing Community Development Department to use for housing planning purposes. The board adopted a framework in March of 2020. The vast majority of the money, 93% of the funds, would be going to local grants to your jurisdictions. They're proportional to the amount of the regional housing needs allocation that each jurisdiction receives. So the vast majority of the money going to grants, 7% of the money is going towards staff or administrative uses, as well as staff and consultant assistance to local jurisdictions or jurisdictions to help with their housing elements and implementation of the housing elements. Since that time, jurisdictions have definitely been using the grants, but not all of them have used 100% of their grants. As we did a recent accounting of those funds, we came up with about $145,000 in just residual funds that that will be unused. And we're coming today to see how to use those funds. We have 2 objectives that we staff is proposing. First is housing element compliance, and then the second is implementation of the housing elements once everybody has complied. The issue on the first one is 9 jurisdictions in this region, 9 out of the 28 jurisdictions regions received letters of non-compliance from the Housing Community Development Department of the state, and those jurisdictions need to be in compliance soon. So we've contacted each of them. 5 of those jurisdictions are requesting assistance from SACOG, either through our consultants or through staff, to get to compliance. They have very specific things that they need to meet. The number of jurisdictions out of compliance, 9, is higher than we've had in the past, but that's going on throughout the state. There's a high number of non-compliant jurisdictions, partly due to a lot of new requirements and new state laws in the last couple of years. Part of it's unclear guidance from HCD, and part of it is requirements that happened after the initial reviews. So as reflected by Director Lozano's comments in December, a lot of jurisdictions are facing a lot of challenges and obstacles to meeting compliance. So with this unused amount of money, the $145,000, and it may grow as jurisdictions may not fully utilize their grants, staff is requesting that the board give the executive director, Mr. Corliss, the discretion to utilize the funds to help the jurisdictions requesting to get into compliance through our consultant. And then second of all, for all jurisdictions, once all compliance is met is to help implement programs, whether or not that's in the form of assistance from SACOG and mapping analysis, training. There's lots of information still to go on, and we have been meeting regularly with your housing planners in the region. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that report. Let's go to the public first and find out if there's anyone who wishes to comment on the item.
There is
Lynette?
no, thank you. There's no public comment.
Okay. Any public comment from our directors? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Ballard would move that we adopt the recommended action to give our executive director discretion to use the fundings for the purposes indicated.
Sarah goes to second.
Okay, is there any additional comments? Okay, I see Don Saylor's hand, I see Lucas Pirich's hand, and I see Rich Lozano's hand. So let's go in that order.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this. I think this is exactly the kind of assistance and technical support that SACOG can and should make available to our jurisdictions. It's of added value, and it's important that we, as a region, participate in this way to make sure that we are in compliance and that our jurisdictions can do the best for their residents through our aid. So I'm delighted that this is an opportunity for us to help each other.
Great. Director Furich.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of additional quick comments that are sort of similar to Director Saylor's. That really appreciate sort of SACOG taking the lead in this effort. I think so the City of Davis is one of the 9 jurisdictions that was deemed out of compliance by with an incomplete sort of submittal by HCD. I'll just say that from our perspective, I mean, there are some sort of issues around technicalities that need to be adjusted in terms of the city's perspective, but we have diligently tried to adhere to the state requirements and spent a lot of time and energy as a city and as a community, with a lot of community engagement, trying to make sure that our housing element is adequate as it meets both the letter and the standard of the law. And increasingly, I think it's an issue that we've talked about previously on this board, and we're going to probably continue to talk about across our jurisdictions, is the requirements that are being set forth by the state are increasingly difficult to adhere to, because of, frankly, a lot of resistance from folks in our community and across our communities. But the requirements that are being set, these bar being set really, really high in terms of a standard of what needs to be sort of zoned for, planned and zoned for in terms of housing is very difficult to meet. And I think that I just really appreciate the work that SACOG is going to help undertake in assistance with our community. And I know some in the other communities as well that are in need of assistance. And I think the reality is that this is probably not the last time we're going to see a situation like this. I really appreciate the opportunity to make a few comments. Thank you. And support the motion, of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Lozano.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Jennings. First, I want to apologize. I'm having some tough technical difficulties, so my camera is not working, and I'm not trying to be rude. I just can't get it to work right. I want to echo what Director Saylor and Director Furich said. Our city in particular has worked really hard at trying to meet these standards and again, have a level of frustration with HCD, as I mentioned before. But the only thing I really wanted to add was I wanted to thank Greg Chu for all of his work with our city staff and the city staff that the staff all over the region that he works with, and publicly recognize his efforts and commitment to the region and to our individual jurisdictions. So thank you very much, Greg, and of course all of the other SACOG staff that works really hard day in and day out to try to bridge the gap between what we're doing in our jurisdictions and what the state is requesting of us. So thank you, and I will be supporting this as well.
Thank you. Am I missing any other directors who would like to speak on this? Okay, just one quick question. I heard that there were 9 areas that needed assistance, and 5 of them requested assistance. Can you speak to our ability to outreach to the other 4 or to be able to bring them into compliance as well?
Yes, we contacted all 9 jurisdictions. 4 of them had existing monies remaining from this current grant program to pay for consultants to help them get to the finish line, or other funds that they've received. They appreciated it. We certainly are in talk with them about kind of what their challenges are, but they didn't need any direct sources from this grant source, from the residual funds that we're looking at.
So when all is said and done, we should have all 9 in compliance.
That's correct.
That's the good news. That's the good news. Okay, if there are no other questions, I have a motion from Director Stallard and a second from Director Saragosa. Would you take the roll, please?
Thank you. Director Baines?
Aye.
Bernasconi?
Aye.
Bradford, absent. Branscombe?
Aye.
Houlihan?
Aye.
Burris? Director Burris, could you indicate your vote? Okay. Absent. Clark Kretz?
Aye.
Desmond?
Aye.
Frericks?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Gallardo?
Aye.
Gog?
Yes.
Gore?
Aye.
Guerrero?
Aye.
Harris?
Yes.
Joyner?
Aye.
Aquino for Kozlowski?
Aye.
Lozano?
Aye.
Middleton?
Aye.
New?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Saragosa?
Aye.
Saylor?
Aye.
Chenier, absent. Spokley?
Yes.
Stallard?
Yes.
Thune?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
West? Absent. Vice Chair Kennedy?
Aye.
And Chair Jennings.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is information item number 8, which is SACOG's non-harassment policy and board code of conduct. I'm going to ask the incredible executive director of SACOG, Mr. James Corliss, to present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recognize A, we're a little tight on time, and B, we have many of you that we have walked through this code of conduct with a year ago. But I also don't want to discount how important this is. We did update this, our non-harassment policy. We did a lot of work on this when I joined SACOG about 4 years ago. And this code of conduct was new back then. And the thing I would just point out to you about the code of conduct, so please do review it and read it and absorb it. Maybe you already have. It a little bit gets to your discussion I think you had to recognize the great leadership of Director Gore, which is, this is a table in which you should come with your sleeves rolled up, and we are going to have some tense discussions and debates that if we're not, we're probably not doing our job. But to do that right with respect and the understanding of how important each other's voices are. So for each other and also for our staff. And again, I know this in some ways can be sort of a little rote. Of course, you're all good people, and I know you'll treat each other and the staff with respect. But my duty as executive director and leader of this staff is to make sure that you understand how important that is for me, as it would be for any agency I know you serve for. So. Again, if you can, please, just review it. Make sure you hear it and understand it. We did spend quite a bit of time working on that with the board, as some of you remember who were there 4 years ago. It's important, but that's where I will end on this update on the code of conduct and the non-harassment policy.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, seeing none. We will move to item number 9. This item is the Delta Protection Commission briefing. And James Corliss will introduce our speaker for today.
Okay, thank you again, Chair Jennings. This will be a brief presentation in advance of your workshop, but I want to assure you we're doing okay on time. We know a lot of you would want to recognize our outgoing chair. We built that into the agenda, so we're doing just fine. We wanted to bring the Executive Director of the Delta Protection Commission, Eric Fink, in just to give you a brief update. A, because they're a really important partner. B, because the SACOG board actually has an appointment to the Delta Protection Commission. And currently that is Paul Steele, one of Director Bulehan's fellow city council members from Ileton. I would say a few other things per the memo that we have in your packet. Perhaps the DPC is one of the original mega region working groups. They literally cross political boundaries and regional boundaries because they have to, right? Because the Delta actually is something that is of interest to the Bay Area, to San Joaquin County, to us. They are also working on at the moment, which I'm sure Mr. Fink will touch on, is the, and I keep, it doesn't roll off my tongue yet, but the Great Delta Trail, Great California Delta Trail Master Plan. And that really is a really exciting dovetail with your work around the regional trails plan. So without further ado, Mr. Fink.
Great, thank you, James. Am I audible?
You are.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. There's a lot of familiar faces on the Zoom screen. My own council member in the city of Davis, Councilman Frericks, is here, and really appreciate the opportunity to give you just a real quick briefing on the Delta Protection Commission, and maybe just really starting with the Delta itself. And I don't have a PowerPoint, but I did provide to your team there a map of the Delta region. And it's probably worth just focusing on this. Oh boy, that's going to be really hard to discern, but just to understand the geography that we're talking about. And by the way, this map that's before you is literally a meets and bounds description that's in California statute that describes the Delta region. I can say that it encompasses parts of 6 different counties, because we have a little sliver of Alameda County, but we recognize 5 Delta counties, 2 of which are within the SACOG area, Sacramento and Yolo. In addition, San Joaquin, Contra Costa, and Solano counties have portions of their land area within the Delta region. There are cities that are located either entirely or in part within the Delta, including Sacramento, West Sacramento, in the SACOG region, but extending to Stockton, Lathrop, Manteca, Tracy, the eastern Contra Costa County cities of Brentwood, Antioch, Oakley, Pittsburgh. All of them are located either in part or entirely within the Delta region. So the commission is a state of California agency. I work for 15 commission members, one of which was mentioned, Councilman Paul Steele from the city of Ileton. In addition, county supervisors from each of those 5 primary Delta counties, and our current chair is Supervisor Don Natoli from Sacramento County. His alternate, who I never get to see because Supervisor Natoli is indefatigable, is Vice Chair Kennedy. And so we have 15 commission members, county supervisors. We have city council representatives, including Councilman Steele. We have local agency representatives called Reclamation District Trustees. That's probably a familiar term to many of you, but for those who are not, these are the officials responsible for ensuring that levied islands remain levied islands and that we keep the water in the waterways. And then in addition, we have 4 state agency representatives, most of them governors, cabinet members, secretaries of food and ag and natural resources and transportation, and a representative from the State Lands Commission. So those 15 members are who I work for at the commission. They guide our work, and our work is really about how we can best go about protecting and enhancing what we call the unique Delta values. That's Delta agriculture, Delta recreation, the cultural resources in the Delta, which are incredibly significant and have been recognized by Congress in 2019 by the Delta becoming California's first national heritage area. That's a National Park Service run program designating areas that have significant cultural resources and historic resources. And finally, Delta natural resources. So California's efforts on the Delta are really contained within what's called the Delta Plan. This is an effort that is undertaken by our sister agency, the Delta Stewardship Council. Our chair, currently Chair Don Natoli, sits as a member of the Delta Stewardship Council. Most of those members are appointed by the governor or by legislative leaders. And they're the individuals responsible for ensuring that California accomplishes what is called our co-equal goals for the Delta, which are ensuring water supply reliability for all who depend on water from the Delta. And that's most Californians, because of course, Delta water is exported and is sent as far as San Diego. The Delta provides drinking water, at least in part, for over 27 million Californians. Millions of acres of agricultural land are irrigated by the Delta as well. And so the Delta Plan ensures that water supply reliability is accomplished, that restoring the Delta ecosystem is accomplished. Those two are inextricably linked. And that all of this occurs in a manner that protects and enhances those unique Delta values that I mentioned earlier: agriculture, recreation, cultural resources, and natural resources. And that's really where our commission, as a state agency, we have the responsibility to define how best to protect and enhance those unique Delta values, even as the state goes about accomplishing its larger goals for the Delta of water supply reliability and ecosystem restoration. Because our commission, which was established in 1992, primarily over concern about urbanization at the fringes of the Delta moving into the Delta region, and for the longest time, it was the only Delta-specific agency in the state of California. That changed in 2009 with major Delta legislation that established our sister agencies, the Delta Stewardship Council and the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy. But because we were the only entity, we were tasked with a lot of different responsibilities over the years, including in the mid-2000s, the responsibility for creating a trail network that would connect the San Francisco Bay Trail, which exists along the Carquinez Strait in some of those eastern Contra Costa County cities that I mentioned, connecting that with Sacramento River trails as they existed at the time in the city of Sacramento, in Chair Jennings district in the Pocket region, and now have since extended to West Sacramento and to trails within Mayor Guerrero's jurisdiction. So the Great Delta Trail is an attempt to create a linkage between urban trails at either end of the Delta and a whole lot of unincorporated, rural, agricultural, in some cases poorly served by roads, a trail network throughout the vast interior of the Delta linking those two. And I can say we've been working on a master plan effort. We don't intend to be the actual trail builder, but really to rely upon the local jurisdictions and their active and ongoing efforts to establish trail networks, whether it's within incorporated jurisdictions or even through county efforts in the unincorporated area, but to provide some overall strategic planning, if you will, for those efforts and how they can ultimately cohere and connect into a trail that will create extensions throughout this vast interior of the Delta region that you see on the map here. We did receive very helpful comments from SACOG on that. We have concluded a public comment period, and actually our commission will be meeting later this afternoon. And one of the items on their agenda is consideration of this Great Delta Trail Master Plan. So if approved, and I expect that it will be by our commission, we will look forward to coordinating further with SACOG on their regional trail plans. Similarly, working with your COG counterparts in San Joaquin and the Bay Area counties on their trail planning efforts. But we're especially encouraged by the work being undertaken at SACOG and really applaud you for that effort. I think that's about all I wanted to say. There's a lot more to cover, but between our National Heritage Area designation, which will provide a unique opportunity for us to highlight and showcase some of the wonderful features of the Delta region, and ultimately the work to create greater trail connections and therefore greater opportunities for people to interact with the Delta in a way that's different from driving on a narrow levee road. We look forward to those opportunities and of course to continued work with SACOG.
Well, thank you very much. We deeply appreciate this presentation, Director Vink, and we too look forward to greater trail connections throughout our entire region. And I know each one of us has a few ideas on that we want to make sure are implemented in our lifetime. So we are excited about this. James, when would be the next time to get another update on this item?
Let's back to you, Chair Jennings. On that, we were going to bring this to the Land Use and Natural Resources Committee because really that is the natural committee for this work and our coordination with DPC. However, we also recognize more of you that touch the Delta are actually on the larger board rather than Lunar. So let's work with Eric and his staff, and we'll figure out the natural time. It might be sooner rather than later in terms of the trails plan. We'll get back to you.
Okay. Do we have time for questions? I know we're on a tight schedule.
It's your call. One or two. We are a little bit behind.
Yeah, we're slightly behind. So any questions that you have? Eric, are you available for direct questions from our directors?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. So because we are a little slightly behind on time and we want to make sure we get to the workshop, we're going to reschedule item number 10. And Casey, I know you were ready to go and present this item. So, but we'll reschedule this. And Casey, what I'd like to have you do is introduce our workshop presenter on why we start with land use, the importance of the built environment in achieving our regional goals.
I'm happy to do that. Thank you. And this is the exciting item, I think, of the agenda here. So in a little background here, in the fall, we had a few questions in various committees about the linkage between land use and transportation. We then held a board luncheon following that to do a soup to nuts presentation on the blueprint, which was a voluntary effort that this region undertook about 20 years ago. And that was a really interesting, very informative conversation, I think, for the board members there. Looking ahead to 2022, given that you are about to undertake the update of your long-range transportation and land use plan that is built upon the blueprint, and that several board members here, this will be your very first plan update, we wanted to kick off the year with this workshop on the relationship between land use and transportation and why we start with land use in the planning that we do. And so Rick Cole, who is the executive director of the Congress for New Urbanism, is here to talk with you today. Importantly, he also has the perspective of a former elected official and a city manager on land use, growth, development, and the fiscal, environmental, and social impacts of that. And so you have his bio in your packet, so I will not go through all of that. Without further ado, I am pleased to introduce you to Rick Cole.
Welcome, Mr. Cole. You're on mute right now, so there you go. Thank you.
Is my PowerPoint showing up?
It is, sir.
Thank you. Let me pull this over. Let me begin by saying to all of you how much I appreciate and admire the work that each of you has taken on. First of all, to enter into public service, particularly in these challenging times, is admirable and remarkable. But then to, on top of your regular life and family obligations, to take on regional responsibilities on top of your commitments to your city and county jurisdictions is really admirable. And I really want to emphasize how much this is a critical piece of California's future. So let me jump right in. So my concern as a Californian is that we're missing the middle. We sometimes hear about missing middle housing, and I'll talk a moment about that later on. But I think there's an even more profound missing middle. We hear from the loudest voices in our society, people who are angry, and not to judge whether they have a basis for being angry, but there are a lot of people who are just worried. And a lot of people who are concerned about the fate of the California dream. And part of the dynamic that we're seeing as a state, which is not new, but is worse than ever, is this disconnect between state policymakers and local elected officials. As we confront these really difficult and thorny problems at the local and at the state level, there's this tremendous polarization between people who often take very absolutist views and leaving very little room for compromise. I'm here to argue that you really represent, when you're wearing the hat of the Regional Council of Governments, you represent the missing middle that offers the best hope for California going forward. Why do I say that? Since if you talk to your constituents in the grocery store, they're going to be concerned about their town, and you're concerned about what's happening, at the state capitol. Why is it so critical that we work together as a region? Well, first of all, those of you who've been on SACOG for a while, I don't have to explain that to you. But for those who are new, I think it's really important to understand that we're a huge state, 58 counties, 482 cities, 40 million people. More than 10% of the population of the country, the 5th largest economy in the world. One size fits all is a really difficult thing to do. And yet there clearly can't be just complete autonomy for 482 cities, because so many of the issues transcend borders. And land use, which is at the heart of what local jurisdictions want to protect in terms of local control. Land use drives pretty much everything else. Land use has an impact on air quality, huge impact on transportation and congestion and greenhouse gas emissions. It has a huge impact upon generational wealth and our economy. And so getting the land use right is bigger than any one county or city border. But we really need to be doing this at the regional level rather than trying to solve these problems in Sacramento. So, Casey made reference, and those of you who served on the board for a while know how the rest of the state really modeled SB 375, which is the most significant land use planning framework adopted in the state in the last half century. Was really modeled on the successful blueprint effort completed in 2004 in the Sacramento region. Why did it serve as a model? Because it was collaborative, because it was bottom up, and because it set a vision, a shared vision between central cities and suburbs and among different interest groups to see growing together rather than growing apart, and to address the long-standing problems of suburban sprawl and leapfrog development, and the way in which that exacerbates so many of the challenges that we face in terms of housing affordability, climate change, and the cost of highway infrastructure. So once again, as you all embark upon this regional planning effort, in some ways it may seem like deja vu all over again, but I would argue that this is even more important than it was in 2004, that the issues are even more pointed, as we see with the rise in homelessness, the young families being priced out of being able to buy a home, more and more and longer commutes, concern and justifiable concern about sometimes severe racial and economic inequities and inequalities in our region, and the growing cost and strain of just keeping up with our infrastructure, whether it's water, sewer, stormwater treatment, highways. All of that is under strain, and just paying for what we already have, let alone continuing to expand it for additional growth, puts a huge burden on all of your jurisdictions. Here's the challenge. The status quo has enormous power because people know how to do what they know how to do. They're familiar with what they're familiar with, and the upside of change is often more difficult to see than the downside of change, and change is never easy. But you're going to have to rekindle a sense of shared vision in the Sacramento region. That's a tall order, and that's what we want to talk about today. So all of that is background for the need for you to come together. Small cities, large cities, counties and cities, cities on the west side of Sacramento, on the east side of Sacramento, north side, south side, to come together. Your diverse cities, that's a good thing. People should have choices about what kind of communities they want to live in. But the air doesn't stop with the border of Davis. The cars don't, just stay within the borders of Roseville. All of the jobs aren't in Sacramento. You're a shared region. And in fact, in many cases, people don't even really pay that much attention, sad to say, about what's going on at their local city hall or county board of administration. They're thinking about what's going on in their lives, and their lives cross borders. So I was an elected official 30 years ago when new urbanism emerged. And I found it to be an extraordinarily helpful way to understand the challenges of growth and how to reshape growth, not from the old patterns of ever outward sprawl and on auto domination, but really restoring some of the walkability and community that Americans and particularly Californians cherished prior to the war. There's been a great deal of attention paid in recent weeks to Joan Didion, who, of course, grew up in Sacramento, and the light rail stop. That's a tremendously inefficient use of land and resources, including the public resources of investment in that transportation system. Neither do you want to put 6-story apartments, out in lower density residential neighborhoods. And when you recognize that continuum, then you open up the opportunity for what's called missing middle housing, that used to be very much a part of how people could afford their lives. They didn't start out by buying a single family home 40 miles away from their job. They would start in maybe a smaller apartment, and then maybe to a duplex, and then finally, if they had the desire and the means to buy that single family home. What that's been lost, and it's been lost because we have this Crayola zoning that says that only one kind of housing belongs in a particular area. The great neighborhoods, including the historic neighborhood that I live in Pasadena, have always had back houses, which we now call ADUs. There's always been bungalow courts and duplexes and small apartment buildings, but they were meant to fit into the neighborhood in a compatible way, and that goes to design. and you're in control of design. The state has not taken away those opportunities. And that takes us, land use is at the basis ultimately of transportation. How we get around and the cost of getting around is really been driven literally by the way we've done land use, by the segregation of uses through zoning, and by poor design that didn't respect the public realm and forced us into our cars. There is a better way, and it's going to be your challenge to help build that better way. And remember this. The automobile showed up in America in 1900. Ralph Nader's book, Unsafe at Any Speed, came out in 1962. In those 60 years, we had to invent stop signs, painting lanes on highways, auto insurance, licensing of drivers, auto insurance, gas stations, car repair shops. All of that had to be invented. It took 60 years to integrate the automobile into our way of life. So it's not going to be overnight that we're going to move to a more walkable environment. We're going to have to work to make a long and very positive transition away, not from ever using cars, but from building our cities solely around cars and leaving everyone else out. The Chuck Marone, who I think is going to be speaking later on to your board, he talks about the difference between a street, a road, and what he calls a strode. A street is relatively narrow, has lots of doors and windows, is walkable, bikeable, has room for public transit. A road is something that takes a great deal of traffic efficiently from one place to another. What we've perfected in California is the strode, which doesn't do a very good job of either. It's dangerous, it's wide, it's congested, and we've mixed up the difference between streets and roads and created a miserable hybrid that's very expensive to maintain. They're often 4, 6, 8 lanes across, completely miserable for pedestrians, bikes, and public transit. And very inefficient use of the land in terms of, when you look at it, the vast majority of it ends up being for parking lots. This is a cartoon that I found from a young person. You'll see over in the upper left, "Get off the computer and go outside," says the parents to the exasperated parents to the children playing video games. And then the reality of what you have to navigate to go outside in so many suburban environments. These are a couple slides from the National Association of Realtors, a well-known left-wing radical group. They talk about the way in which demographics are changing. People want and need more walkability. They don't want to have 2 cars for a 2-earner family. They don't want to spend all of their time driving their kids from here to there. They want the ability to walk to get a cup of coffee, and they're willing to pay for it. And that is changing, and that's particularly true among young people. Some baby boomers are making that switch, but also particularly the younger generation. We need to speak to the needs of the younger generation, most of whom are priced out of the traditional single-family home. I'll conclude with 2 things. The first is, this is not something that should be imposed. It shouldn't be imposed on local communities. It shouldn't be imposed on the people of your local communities that you represent. This is something that needs to be worked on together. That was really the genius of the blueprint back in the early 2000s. It certainly was what I learned as mayor of Pasadena in rewriting our general plan from scratch to adopt a different land use pattern that's been extraordinarily successful economically over the last 20 years. And this is not something where you just give everybody 3 minutes to yell at you. This is getting people around tables. This is getting people to look at the facts. It's getting people who have differing views to have to find common ground. The person who says, why don't we build more housing? I can't afford housing. And well, I don't want my neighborhood ruined. there is common ground when people begin to lower their voices and realize that we're all here together. And it also brings in people who you aren't hearing from, who don't scream and yell. And they are critically important voices to be heard. And they often cause the screamers and the yellers to calm down, because if they keep screaming and yelling, the normal people look at them like they're crazy. So it has the ability to change the way the dialogue works. So let me give you an example of that. When I was city manager of Azusa, we had almost 500 acres, the last major parcel in the San Gabriel Valley. 1.8 million people live there, that was undeveloped. And a classic home builder came in, tried to sell us a typical cul-de-sac gated plan for lots of single family houses. And I objected as the new city manager, and the developer said, we have 3 votes and you don't. So they pushed their plan through. The 2 people who were on the short end got signatures, took it to the ballot box, and it went down in flames, 58%. I went, rather than have it sit fallow or go again and expect different results, I went to the landowner and I said, before you go out and find another developer, why don't we plan this together, you as the landowner and us as the community? So we put together, he put up $250,000, and which he would have had to, had a developer pay for, but he put that up, and that $250,000 allowed us to hire 5 really outstanding design firms, who then presented at a community all-day charrette their ideas for development of the land. The community's input shaped us selecting 2 of those designers. We went through a process with the community to take the best ideas that had come out of that and to put together a land plan. The land plan went to the city council. It was unanimously approved. I'm sorry, 1 dissenter, 4-1, and then citizens took it to the ballot. Same citizens who said, you didn't get it right the first time. They said you didn't get it right the second time. The difference was they were a tiny minority, and in the end, the voters approved the plan that they had participated in. And here's the best part: the plan got built, and you can go visit it today. And it's transit-oriented development. It has apartments and townhomes near the light rail stop. It has large homes up near the hillsides. It has a mix of duplexes, and it's all oriented around parks. It's highly walkable, and it's well served by transportation. That's possible. It doesn't just happen automatically. It takes initiative, and it takes being proactive at the local level. But if you're guided by a regional vision, if you've developed a critical mass of people who are well informed and who understand the need to work together, I think you can be a model for the state. So those are some thoughts, and I welcome your feedback, your questions, and your challenges.
Thank you so much, Rick. That was incredible. I took pictures of every single slide because I can't wait for you to send it to me on PowerPoint. I just can't wait that long. I probably have it already, but I took pictures anyway so I can study it in the meantime on my camera. And I just listened to every single word you said. And I want to talk to you even more about things that are going on in my district and in my city. But I'm confident that all the other directors have questions as well. So I want to kind of open it up to the directors for any questions they may have on your presentation.
Sure. And
Matt, if you can either pull this off the screen. Okay, there we go. Good. So incredible resource. I'm starting to see questions. Michael Saragosa.
Thank you, Chair. Rick, I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I thought it was excellent, and it's great to see those examples from across the state and in other areas. And it hits close to home for me. I'm an Azusa Pacific graduate and was working for Assemblyman Pacheco at the time. I think you were in Azusa. So it's just nice to see that work. And I just want to commend you. I know you've been in a lot of different municipalities, and I think you've always played it straight with your councils. And I think, it's just good to see this type of development in other areas, because sometimes, and I'm glad what you said about rural in other areas, because like for myself, represent a very rural area. We're on the border of a more urbanized area, but a lot different for us. But there's still opportunities, I think, for us within our rural areas to be able to do things like this as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael. And I would just add this one word in reaction to emphasize that if we all pull our weight, I mean, that's this dynamic between us and the state, is they're accusing us, and I say us, I very much think of myself as representing the local side of things. They're accusing us of irresponsibility and not doing our share. I think I think a lot of communities have. I think all of us need to do more. And by demonstrating that we can solve these problems without state interference, I think we can ameliorate some of this increasingly toxic polarization.
Director Thomas.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much. My question today is, how do you see, how can SAGHOG be helpful in helping our respective jurisdictions work through a more collaborative land use process that works for our own communities? Yeah,
and you were, part of it is money, right? Because I'll tell you a quick story. When I was mayor of Pasadena, I was incoming mayor, and the vice mayor and I were on different sides of the growth issue. I was the pro neighborhood guy, and she was the pro business lady. And fortunately, we didn't have a personal animosity. So we felt like we needed to get together and figure out a way to bring our community together around these issues. So we proposed spending $250,000 on public outreach. And our colleagues on the council were just outraged. How much are you going to spend on flyers and blah, blah. But we wanted to do this kind of public outreach that really reached people who ordinarily didn't participate, and reach them in positive ways, not give them a chance to scream at us. And so the council voted down that budget. They were fine with spending $250,000 on a consultant, but not public outreach. So I resigned as co-chair of the general plan committee. And they said, "Oh, Rick loves this stuff. He'll come back. Just give him a couple of weeks. He'll come back." And when a couple of weeks passed, and the clock was ticking, we had a court order to redo our general plan. So one of the council members on the majority side was deputized to come and talk to me, and he said, "Would you take 225,000?" And so I did, right? I mean, we had to start somewhere, but we really did the community outreach. That is the most valuable thing. And it's not the community outreach to tell people what they should think. It's getting people around the table. Because if you have young people and older people, if you have newer residents and people who've been in the community longer, if you have business people and folks who have to commute 50 minutes to and from work, and you get them around the table and you talk about what do you have in common, what are your values, what kind of community do you want to see, suddenly people say, "Well, I was never against all growth. I'm not a NIMBY. I just I'm concerned about my neighborhood." And you begin to get that kind of dialogue that's constructive. And then if you show tools of ways in which you can achieve these things in better ways than the traditional way, because people are afraid of crap. I'm afraid of crap. Who wants crap in their neighborhood, right? But if you, pardon me, but and who wants crap crammed, right? So give people the assurance by showing them alternatives, letting them help shape what those alternatives are. So that takes money, it takes resources, but more than just throwing money at it. That's not enough. You have to be creative and open-minded. One last thing is you may practice this, but I just slapped my forehead. The vast majority of these public meetings, they're in a junior high school auditorium, pre-COVID and post-COVID. The people sort of trickle in. The city hall people are all up at the front gossiping about what happened at council meeting last week. And then you impose a 40-minute PowerPoint on them about, the C7 zone and the 400 FAR and the blah, blah, blah. We went, I tried to set the example as the mayor. I would greet people at the door. How'd you hear about this? We're so glad you came. We'd like you to be part of this and to break it down and speak English and if possible, provide food, childcare, Spanish translation, and even music. All of those things put people at their ease and help people feel like they're part of the community and their voice counts and that they should come back and be part of the process and be part of the solution. I know that's not technical, but I think it's really important.
Those are great points. In fact, at my last community meeting, I held it at a local iconic bar, and people grabbed a drink, and it was a very, very productive meeting. We're working through some contentious things. So, great points. Thank you so much.
I'm glad it worked out.
Director Soon.
Thank you, Chair Jennings, and thank you, Rick Cole, Mr. Cole, for your presentation.
Everyone calls me Rick.
I know I got two Ricks on here. Hey, I also want to thank you for highlighting community I lived in for 20 years, Laguna West, Peter Calthorpe's project. It is part of the city of Elk Grove now, no longer Sacramento County, just in case you weren't aware. But along those lines, one of my early involvements in the community was fighting rezones within that community, and Peter Calthorpe actually took that thing off of his website because so many rezones occurred. And when the challenge that I had was getting people to understand the ramifications of these rezones for things that wouldn't be built till much later in the future. So my question is, do you have any advice? Earlier you're talking about with Wendy about engagement. How do you have any recommendations on how to one, get the community engaged, and two, to recognize there could be a long-term horizon for these things, because people will rile up on something that is urgent, but something like a plan that is a long build out, right? It's really hard to get them engaged. So any advice there would be great.
Well, if I can call you Darren, council member.
Darren, please. Yeah.
Three quick reactions, and happy to talk more in depth. First, I got the same feedback from our planners when we embarked upon the general plan process in Pasadena, because we had to go to the ballot box for approval because of the court order, and I said we have to have thousands of people. I'm a politician. I know that people are not going to vote yes on something that they had nothing to do with. So they said, well, Rick, thousands of people. We get 300 people in a rainstorm, in the middle at midnight, right? The usual suspects will show up, but you want thousands of people? And they don't really care about zoning and planning. It's all abstract. And I said, of course not. Don't talk to them about zoning and planning. Talk to them about where their kid's going to live. Talk to them about what kind of jobs are going to be there in 5 or 10 years. Talk to them about the challenges that they have about traffic and crime and the concerns that they care about, and start with their values, right? What's important for this community, for Placerville, for Elk Grove, for West Sacramento? What makes us special as a community? What do we deeply care about? In Azusa, it was faith, family, hard work, opportunity, and those were touchstones that we could come back to over and over again. In Pasadena, it was 7 principles that we worked out at the very basis, and we would keep coming back. These are the principles we agreed on. So now we need to live up to those principles, and that involves some trade-offs. So again, speaking English, not talking to people about the update of the comprehensive, housing element of the blah blah blah, because that's in this year and out that year.
Right.
But rather talking about the future of where we're going to live and how we're going to deal with challenges of homelessness. But again, I think there's some very technical tools, right, that particularly new urbanists, and I'm not here to advertise, but I am part of this movement. I took this job because I think it's really valuable for local government to have tools that we haven't had, things like form-based codes that can ensure that you don't end up with something, oh my God, that's what you call smart growth? I don't want any more of that. And again, those are the tools that got overturned when Laguna West was watered down, right? They lost track of those very crucial ways in which you can deliver high quality. Enough of that, because I know there are others who may want to ask questions.
Absolutely. Speaking of Director Stallard and then Director New.
Stallard.
One of my most favorite high school teachers is in Woodland, and so I've been there recently to visit him.
Which one?
You may know him. He was on the school board for a number of years, Bob Sally.
Director Stallard, try turning your camera off. You turn your camera off, Stallard, it would be better.
All right. I just wanted to thank you, Rick. I appreciate the presentation. I want to point out a few things about Blueprint that may not be appreciated by others here. We spent over $2 million to do Blueprint. It was a major effort and a long time ago. And when I go to public meetings and I see the rows of chairs in front and people up in the front talking to everybody, I feel like that's the mistake we always seem to make. It's like we're laying our trip on people, and they resent it, especially if they come in with biases. When we did Blueprint, we all did tables, but beyond that, we manipulated who sat at each table. We had the check-in, and we put citizens and developers and utility representatives and developers around each table so that you weren't just talking to the people you knew or who felt the same way as you did. And then we also had a SACOG staffer with a laptop that was coordinating all the information coming from each table. So at the end of the evening, we'd have somebody report from each table, and up on the screen would appear the key points that were discussed at that table for the person to present from. We dignified people by letting them know we were listening to them. First of all, we trusted them with really a lot of information presented in a way that was accessible, and then we listened to them. So I think we've done a lot of good over the years, not just then, but in the years since, from the things we learned from that, but still room for improvement. Thank you.
All good points. Excellent things to keep in mind. We used a device similar to that when in the Pasadena process, where at each stage of the iterations, because we were on a really hellish time deadline to make the ballot, we would, instead of taking the input and then saying, okay, here's the next stage of the plan, we always began those second meetings with, here's what we heard during the last phase of community participation, and did we hear you right? And again, a quick story. There was a guy who was for jitneys. His solution to everything was jitneys, because it would be a great job creator, great way for informal transportation to get people around. He happened to be British. And so he gets up and he said, there's nothing up there about jitneys. And normally, it's the folks who are presenting who are very, well, they're very defensive. Instead, the whole audience sort of said, yes, we heard you about jitneys, but you're the only one who cares about jitneys. That's what we said, the majority. And so it validated that we were taking people's input seriously. And that's crucial, because again, there's a lot of mistrust, there's a lot of resentment. It's higher than now, and it's fueled by Facebook and Twitter and all those things, and Nextdoor. So it's really important to validate that we're living in a democracy and people's opinions matter. That doesn't mean that we all get everything we want, because if we all got everything we want, we'd have low taxes. We'd all live at the end of a cul-de-sac. There'd be no traffic, and we'd all have jobs that we could teleport to, in 3 seconds. That's not going to happen. And I think if you take seriously that people are not idiots, even though sometimes they sound like idiots when they're yelling at you about a toxic waste dump. Put them in an environment where you treat them as thoughtful citizens, and most people will rise to that occasion. And the ones who don't get marginalized because everybody thinks, why are you being a jerk, right? They're listening to us. Why don't you just sit down and have your say?
Thank you for speaking truth.
So Rick, one of the things that you just said to me loud and clear is that it was intentional that our design be that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's to listen twice as much as we talk. And so as elected officials, it's important that we do that, especially in this day and age, that we constantly listen to the constituents and what they have to say. Director New, you had your hand up.
I did, thank you. Rick, I thank you for your presentation. It's what you've said is exactly what I think our community wants. I am from a community very small. We have 7,500 people, and we have about 300 acres left in town owned by one developer. And we have other property around town in his control outside of the city limits. But I was really impressed with your thought of your suggestion of what you did talking to the developer. Is that the developers develop many places around the state. I don't know how hard we've worked to speak to him individually, and I haven't. I will certainly go back to the city council and to our city manager and see if this is a possibility. But if you can't do that, if the developer isn't willing to put up money for that kind of thing, what do you do then?
Yeah, there's no magic answer to each individual situation. I do know that it's the public's responsibility to do the planning, especially for the public realm, and how new development matches the existing infrastructure and the existing fabric of a community. And I remember during the dark days before we rewrote the general plan, when we were all at each other's throats, and I was really angry about a project that had been approved by the Planning Commission, and I wanted it to be called up before the City Council, and my colleagues would have none of it. So I made a motion at 1:45. I said, I move that we rename the Planning Commission the Reacting Commission, and it died for lack of a second. But I made my point that the public sector shouldn't wait for the developer to show up with your door and roll something out, particularly if you've got 300 acres, right? You need to be proactive as a community. I don't mean you personally, to say, what do we want? That doesn't mean sugar plums and unicorns. It means something that's realistic, and it may be you have to hold out. I remember CVS coming to us after we adopted our new code in Azusa, and they wanted to build a big parking lot in front of their CVS, and they said, that's what we build everywhere. And I said, well, it's not what you build everywhere. In Claremont, that's not what you built. You built what they wanted in Claremont. Well, you're not Claremont, they said. And I said, well, yes, we're not Claremont. We're Azusa. And if you don't want to build the way we want you to build in Azusa, then you can go somewhere else. And they said, well, we've never heard a city manager talk to us like that. And I said, well, I guess you've never been to Azusa before. The reality is that communities need to hold high standards. And then if you hold high standards, you should make the process really simple, right? It shouldn't, if people come in and are willing to do what you want, then it should be easy to get a building permit. And it should be hard only if they don't do what you want. But first you have to know what you want, right? You can't say, well, come in and we'll argue about it, ask for 10 stories, we'll fuss about 6, and then there'll be a referendum, and and then it will go down to 4, and then there'll be a lawsuit, and that's maniacal. And it's part of the reason why we have such a terrible reputation in California. Have high standards, set those standards clearly. But then make it easy for people who come in who are good developers who are willing to meet those standards, and make it really hard for the crappy developers. Let them go elsewhere.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very
It
much.
seems like we're probably at the end of our time, but
Hey,
I'm
Rick.
available. I'm available, as is our organization, to be a resource to your communities. We don't have a giant phalanx of 100 planners who will come in and solve all your problems, but I think that what you're embarking upon under the leadership of James, and I don't know if you all know this, but James has a national reputation for being really just one of the leaders, the forerunners of smart growth in our country. And I suppose that's why you hired him. But I'm happy to work with him and with all of you, because I want to see this be a success. My daughter goes to UC Davis. I've spent a lot of time in Sacramento. I've watched how it's Sacramento, writ large. And I think it's our state capital, and it's your region is a really important canary in the coal mine. And if you can't get it right, there's not a lot of hope for the Bay Area and the Los Angeles region. So I'm rooting for you and wish you all the best, and recognize that it will not be easy, but the really important things in life, having raised 3 kids, are not easy. Marriages are not easy. Building a career is not easy. Running for office and serving in politics is not easy. But you all have taken on some hard jobs, and this is a hard one, but it'll be a very rewarding one, and you'll leave a tremendous legacy if you do this as well as the folks did back in 2004. In fact, you probably ought to do better, because hopefully you've learned some things since then.
Hey, Rick, I know you're on a time schedule as well, but we did have 2 more questions. Can you take 2 quick ones?
Sure.
Okay, I've got Director Branscombe and Director Aquino.
Thanks a lot, Chairman. Rick, I want to compliment you. I presume since you were mayor in the early 90s, is that correct?
Yeah. Back in the last millennium is what I tell people.
Okay, there you go. I was a resident at Paseo, Colorado for a few years in the early 2000s. And what a dream it was. I had an apartment on the 5th floor. I go down to the 2nd floor to the Equinox gym. The floor below that was the Gelson's supermarket. You go down to the other end, there's the movie theaters and all the restaurants and all the retail. It was a dream. I'm hoping you had something to do with that.
I had a lot to do with it. I was on the Civic Center master plan that insisted that Trizicon do something different. I pushed for a museum unsuccessfully in Paseo, Colorado, but we were able to get the housing and to get the integration. Just for everybody's information, Paseo, Colorado was historically part of the heart of our Civic Center in Pasadena. 6 square blocks were torn down during urban renewal to build a suburban enclosed walled mall that had no windows or storefronts on the outside. It failed in less than 20 years, and Trizicon came in and rebuilt it as Paseo, Colorado, the first really truly mixed use that Councilmember Branscombe is referring to. It's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to live in an elevator apartment, but for a lot of people, it was, as he says, a dream come true. And we should have those choices. We should have those choices. Not in Placerville, but in Sacramento and West Sacramento and some of the more urbanized communities.
Okay. Oh, you had my attention. Thank you.
Director Aquino.
I think there is an effort underway already for many of us to make our communities more walkable. For example, in Folsom, we've got a concerted effort to try to add housing to our central business district, outdoor dining, trees, all that kind of stuff that makes it very appealing to residents. But what we've found is that some of the greatest resistance comes from business owners and merchants because they equate cars with customers. And so how do you overcome that resistance?
I used to say that my 3 greatest achievements as mayor were, number 1, the adoption of the general plan, number 3, putting parking meters in Old Pasadena, and number 2, not getting recalled for putting parking meters in Old Pasadena. And that went directly to the heart of the merchants. we had built 3 parking structures in Old Pasadena to accommodate traffic, the increased interest in our restaurants and retail. But we were charging because we had to pay for the construction of the parking structures. And so we were losing $1 million a year. So the staff came up with this idea of putting in parking meters, and the merchants were just irate. This is going to destroy our businesses, and we'll you might as well just bulldoze our businesses. So I locked the staff and the business people in a room, and I said, okay, we're not leaving until we have a deal. And we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And finally I said, well, what if we took 100% of the parking meter revenue and we devoted it to increased street maintenance, cleanup, police, foot and horse patrol, and beautification over years, as the money accumulated to plant trees and all that, and put 100% of that toward the district. So the merchant said, well, that would change our mind. Yeah, that would work. And then the staff was kicking me under the table, saying, you just gave away all the revenue. Well, we're losing $1 million a year. The result was of managing parking was that we ended up tripling the property tax revenue from Old Pasadena and quadrupling the sales tax revenue from Old Pasadena. Plus, we got to collect the fines for the people that stayed over, which we didn't give to the merchants. So we actually made out like bandits. There are 7 parking spaces for every car in Southern California, and it may not be quite as high in the Sacramento region, but it's a lot. So managing parking is important. If you want to be walkable, there's ways in which you can manage parking. That's difficult, right? I mean, I literally almost got recalled for violating the religion of free parking in our town. But I think you need to be pragmatic, and I don't know what in Folsom would work, and I don't know the exact elements. You'll have to figure that out. But I think be creative. There are ways all over the country that people have found, and look at how quickly we were able to convert parking into outdoor dining, and how successful that's been. And finally, I want to thank you. We got a terrific police chief from you in Santa Monica. So Folsom, we owe Folsom a debt of gratitude.
Well, thank you, Rick. You have been incredible, and you can tell how great you've done just by how many people are still on camera, listening to every single word that you have to say. And you stirred our thoughts and our creativity, and going back to our own respective jurisdictions and starting to ask some questions that maybe we haven't asked before, but even equally as important, listening to people and making sure that we understand exactly what they want.
We have an annual gathering, Mr. Chairman, we call it the Congress. That's why we're named the Congress. And it's in Oklahoma City in March, the end of March this year. I know people are skittish about travel, but hopefully things will be a little better by the end of March. And it brings together architects, designers, engineers, local elected officials. It's a really tremendous 2 or 3 days to learn from your colleagues all over the country. And it's a little bit of a sales pitch, but if you're interested, and Oklahoma City, you might think, wow, that's not on my top 10 list of tourist attractions. Incredible story over the last 25 years. The capital of a red state, 4 Republican mayors in a row have shepherded a community investment plan, for tax measures to invest in that community. And they say, we used to compare ourselves to Tulsa, now we compare ourselves to Dallas. Oklahoma City is an enormous success story. They started by revitalizing their downtown, and now they're deep into bike trails, public education, neighborhoods, facilities, local parks, senior centers, and it's a tremendous story. If you haven't been to Oklahoma City, you'll be amazed at how much you'll come back with in terms of learning for your communities. So apologize for the sales pitch, but I think if any of you are interested, just go on our website, cnu.org, for more information.
Rick, thank you so much. Really do appreciate you. Round of a virtual applause, please.
Thank you all. And thank you for your
very much.
service.
And
thanks for the
I'll be in
invitation.
touch with you because I've got some good friends in Pasadena that I want to see if you know.
Okay.
Between Pasadena and Altadena, I want to see if you know, and I want to share some of the stories of my time in Pasadena in the 70s.
Well, I'll buy you a cup of coffee because I'll be in Sacramento next weekend. Let's see. Yes, next weekend, weekend after this, to visit my daughter. So we can.
You got a date. We will make that happen.
All
Okay.
right. Thanks
I'll
again.
reach out to you to connect.
Okay.
But thank you so much. So very
Bye-bye.
much. So we have made it to the end of our agenda. The last item that we have is reports. And so if there are any reports, board member reports, executive director reports, and also I'm supposed to have a report from the chair's perspective. And so I'm going to let you know up front, I don't have a report, not at this point in time. I got a few things I want to say, but I don't have a report, but I promise I'll have a report at the next meeting. So any board member reports or executive director reports at this time?
I do. I raised my hand. Since you guys mentioned Paul Steele during the meeting, he hosts a spam festival in Ileton on February 5th at Peter's Steakhouse. So I thought I'd give a shout out for Paul Steele hosting a spam festival.
Director Buellhan, I think that's yet another thing we've forgotten to put in Director Gort's gift basket.
Okay. Anybody else?
By the way, that's a real thing.
Anybody else?
It's a beautiful weekend to come shop Main Street in Placerville.
Okay, what you got going? Just shopping, right?
Just shopping. Great stuff,
Okay.
great food. Come on up.
Okay. Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chair, got a couple of things real quick.
Okay.
Sounded good. I don't want to jump any board members though. So first off, just kind of per the report Lynette sent out yesterday, we're kicking off a series of meetings to each of the city managers and the county execs over the next 3 months. It's just going to highlight what's ahead this year for SACOG because it's a big year. And that's my second point, which is to somehow, really good board meeting this morning. I think bottling up what each of you were saying about the leadership of our outgoing chair, Bonnie Gore, and then that workshop just now, it just makes me think about the challenges we have ahead this year. And I to pull that spirit through the work this year and the work ahead and the challenges ahead and some of the really, I think, going to be very kind of tough and sticky issues. And I want you to all leave this meeting thinking about being disruptors. And I know that's an easy word now. Everybody loves to throw that around. We all love to be disruptors. We all want to be disruptors, right? But civic disruptors. And the many things that Rick Cole said that it resonated with me was the exchange with Director New. You have to ask. You got to know what you want, and we have to ask. And we're stronger actually at making that ask together as a region. And as we kick off the next long range plan, we think about future land use, right? Each and every one of you may easily think, well, that I've got my jurisdiction general plan, what goes on in my jurisdiction, what goes on in my jurisdiction. But actually it has a huge, profound, tremendous regional impact, right? And that's that's just what I wanted to say to kind of reflect a little bit on this morning. Great kickoff, great handing over of the gavel. Great way to start the year, and I'm looking forward. I'm sorry we couldn't get to the year ahead preview that Casey was going to deliver, but you've got a lot on your plate this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports from anybody? Okay, I think I'll close this out. There are a lot of goals that we have this year that are really important. Our SACOG transportation funding round, Green Means Go, the release of the region trails plan that we talked about earlier, our racial equity work with the race equity and inclusion plan working group, and then also our youth leadership academy, just to name a few, a lot of work that's in front of us. But I would not want to work with any greater team than the team that I'm looking at on this screen. I am excited to be a part of this group working on these types of goals that are going to make our region stronger. Somebody said we're stronger together. We are. Somebody said that we're a team. We are. Together, everyone achieves more. We are a team. Together, we can all win. Together, we can all move the city forward. We can take care of the problems that we've been dealing with for years, and we can move past them. And then set up the next generation for something greater than even we can imagine. And so I'm excited to lead this group. I ask you to bear with me, to give me some time to make sure I pronounce your name right, to make sure I learn how to use this technology, to make sure I truly understand SACOG. I ask you to give me some time, but I promise you, I won't let you down. I will work tirelessly to be the best leader. I want to be like Bonnie Gore. I want to be a leader like Bonnie Gore. I want to be a leader like other directors, chairs who have chaired SACOG. I want to be a leader like them. I want to be someone that you can say, I'm proud to be on his team. I'm proud to be working with him. And so I'm proud to have you as teammates. I'm looking forward to 2022.
Hey, Rick, do we all get Super Bowl rings if this year turns out well?
If it turns out well, we will get SACOG rings. They're going to be just as good as Super Bowl rings. I promise. So anyway, thanks so much. Thanks for stepping up to leadership. Thanks for staying in here with this meeting until this time. It went longer than we wanted it to, but I thank you for staying in with us. Have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. And I think our next meeting is, what's the date, James?
February 17th for the full board, February 3rd and 7th for the committees.
Perfect. And I know you got that on your calendars already. Have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Bye-bye now.
Rick.